The infamous ritual scene in Eyes Wide Shut. Is it a satanic ritual? Is it just a sex party? Or is it maybe something else? Stanley Kubrick's 1999 masterpiece, Eyes Wide Shut, features a very interesting and infamous scene right in the middle of the film, which depicts a secret cult and some kind of ritual that involves sex and possibly even human sacrifice. Now, a lot of people have the opinion that this is depicting the Illuminati or a secret cult that is somehow linked to Hollywood or the elite. I have a very different opinion, and I think Kubrick leaves a lot of clues in the film. So let's have a look. So let's start by looking at the music that is used in the beginning of this scene. Now, interestingly, Kubrick was originally going to use the Bhagavad Gita, which is a tantric yoga piece of music, but apparently, due to not wanting to cause offence, and I suspect possibly hearing something that was just more interesting to his ear, he used Jocelyn Pook's music. So this piece of music is very interesting, particularly when you put it in the context of matching it with the imagery. What Jocelyn Pook did was use the Divine Liturgy, which is part of the Orthodox Romanian Church, and is a very sacred piece of music. And she played the vocals backwards, not the music, just the vocals. The music is actually forwards. Now, if we think about what inverting something means, if we look at what the Nazis changed the swastika into, the inverted cross, playing things backwards, it often, or almost always, inverts the meaning or changes the meaning. So that indicates that this is something blasphemous, something against God that is being performed here. And this music during the incantation part, I would say, of this ritual really does seem to match with that and give clues as to what is actually happening. So let's just listen to and watch the original part, and then I'll show you a clip of this scene with the vocals reversed, so they're actually the correct way now, with the translation beneath, and that should give some extra clues as to what is being symbolised here. another clue is that we are told that this ritual is going to be carried out at around 2 a.m.
They only get started there around 2.
In the village?
Believe it or not, I don't actually know the address yet.
And anyone that practices magic will know that the witching hour is usually between around midnight to 3 a.m, but generally around 2 a.m. is the witching hour, and that is the best time to perform certain types of magic, not all, but certainly what some people would refer to as dark magic is very often performed in rituals at around 2 a.m. You'll also notice that Red Cloak is performing the circle anti-clockwise. Now, I tried to map out if there was any kind of symbolism in how he picks the women and bangs the staff on the floor, but that did seem to be random. At first I thought there was going to be some kind of system to it, but it's very random. Now, one of the biggest clues, I think, and let's take into account that Kubrick shot this film for years, and that's after planning the film out in meticulous detail. Pretty much everything that you see on screen in a Kubrick film is not by accident. Every millimetre of the frame is by design. And the Christmas decorations show the star of Ishtar. Now, Ishtar, also known as Inanna, is the ancient Mesopotamian goddess of love, fertility, and sometimes associated with war and death. But from my experience and my knowledge, she's really more associated with fertility, sensuality, and for Kubrick to have the Star of Ishtar in the film really is a massive clue as to what this secret society, this secret cult are actually doing. It's not a satanic ritual. Another interesting piece of information is if you go into the Kubrick archives, the only book based on magic or ritual that he's got for Eyes Wide Shut is a book called Cult and Occult by Francis King. And just briefly looking through that book, there are entire chapters dedicated to tantric sex ritual, and it does make mention of various secret cults across America that are involved in these tantric sex rituals. There is also mention in one chapter in particular of youth rejuvenation rituals that are performed by some of these secret cults, and the tantric sex ritual is literally based around youth rejuvenation and regeneration. Now, I don't particularly believe that Kubrick would have read just this one book on the occult and magic in his research for this film. If we look at how he's approached researching his films before, if you look into the Kubrick archive, I think it is Dr. Strangelove, where he read something astonishing like 63 different books. And his approach was basically to keep reading books on the subject until he felt that he had stopped learning. And that took him, like I say, I think it was around 63 different books. So I would suspect that he will have read many more books on the subject, particularly some of the recommendations by Francis King. So that would have been books mainly based around Aleister Crowley and Thelema. And we obviously know the connection between Thelemic rituals and Aleister Crowley's approaches and works and tantric sex rituals. Now, another very interesting clue and bit of information about this scene is where it was filmed. So the interior for this scene was filmed at Elven Hall. Now, this used to be owned and was the residence of Maharaja Duleep Singh in I believe, the late 1800s. Now, he had grown up in Indian palaces, and when he moved into the hall, he had large parts of it redecorated so that it looked like the homes that he was used to. And you will notice, despite how the lighting is and the set design, large parts of what is visible does give off a very Indian feel to it. You can actually see some of the artworks around the first floor balcony in this scene. You can also see the hallways and some of the statues and just the entire decoration of it. So if we put this into context, if we think about where, say, Aleister Crowley learnt a lot of the tantric knowledge that he had, that was from his visits to the East, particularly India. If we look at tantric yoga practices, these are things that have been incorporated into Western culture but have come from largely places like India. Now, if we take all of this into consideration, the fact that we have a backwards vocal performance of the Divine Liturgy, we have the Star of Ishtar, we have the ritual at around 2 a.m, we have Red Cloak performing the anti-clockwise circle, we see everybody bow to the above, and I would believe that is Ishtar that they're bowing to. And if we think about just the actual performances of what people are doing there, and then also the very heavily implied human sacrifice, I don't believe, as it's said in the film, that it's an act and possibly just theatre. I firmly believe that this character was killed and sacrificed herself, and I think the evidence definitely pushes that way. But if we look at all of this in context and adding in the interiors of Elven Hall, I think it's pretty clear to me that what is happening is a tantric sex ritual. And I think it's performed in a very dark way. I think the cults that are involved are very ominous and almost certainly murderous, very powerful people as well. So this is not a sort of standard tantric ritual that's been performed, but who knows if these kind of cults actually exist. I do believe that what Kubrick is displaying here is something a little bit deeper, more complex and more interesting than just the standard satanic ritual, the black magic ritual. It's definitely something a lot more deep and interesting than that, just in my opinion. And another thing that pushes it in this direction is the film is filled with Christmas imagery, particularly Christmas trees. Now, the ritual scene is the first scene with interiors that doesn't have Christmas decorations in it. And if we think of what the Christmas tree actually represents, if we take it back to the original pagan tradition, it was to bring an evergreen symbol into your home. And evergreen trees are really regarded as a symbol of fertility and nature. Now, all of this is pushed back and stripped away just for this one scene. And I think that kind of nails it for me, that Eyes Wide Shut is showing a tantric sex ritual. It may be done in a very dark and deliberately blasphemous way, but that's what it's showing. And that's very, very unique. I don't think we have anything like that in any other film, but You can say that about a lot of things in Kubrick films. So that is my thoughts on this particular scene in Eyes Wide Shut. This is just my opinion, and I've spent years watching this film and studying it and trying to understand it on a deeper level, and this is sort of the recent conclusion that I've come to. But I'm very open-minded and open to hearing other people's opinions and thoughts, so if you do have a different opinion, or you have some knowledge that I haven't picked up on yet, please share that in the comments. And as always, if you like this video, please subscribe, like, but only if you want to. I'm not your dad, so you can do whatever you want to. But if you've made it this far, thank you for watching.